Namaskar everyone and welcome to Desi Talk. Before we get into our live today, I just want to talk a little bit about India Currents and that we should donate. So I know I went through this earlier today, but just in case you weren't around for it, today is Giving Tuesday, and even just a few dollars can really help an organization like ours keep these kinds of conversations going. So stuff that you see on Desi Talk is all made possible by donations and grants. So in order to donate, one, you can go to our Facebook page, and if it's India Currents Magazine Facebook page, you can click that donate button on that page, and it's pretty simple. We would love that. Or you can go to our website, indiacurrents.com, and click that donate button on the right-hand side. Both work like different organizations. So Newsmatch will match it on our website donation link, and Facebook will match it on our Facebook page link. So, hey Yashu, just giving a little spiel about donating to India Currents to make content like this possible. It'd be wonderful if everyone that's tuning in could even drop just $5. That'll become 10. It's great. It makes it happen for me and Yashu. We're able to do these great talks. So just wanted to give that little spiel because it's Giving Tuesday. All right. So I'm your host, Srishti Prabha with India Currents. I'm the managing editor. And with me, I have my co-host.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Happy Yashu, coming to you guys live every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for Desi Talk, where we get our conversations on about everything Desi, okay? And make sure y'all donate for Giving Tuesday. What we do here at India Currents is so important. And for the past month, we've been talking about representation and how important that is. And India Currents gives us exactly that voice that, we all have through the different content that we bring forward. We drop the links right here in the comments. I don't know, Srishti, can you see that? So you can pin it for our wonderful folks.
Yes.
But links are there as well on india.current. You can go to their Instagram page, and that way you guys can donate, like Srishti said, whatever that is. $5, $10, you got a 20 in your pocket, drop it in there, okay? I will be going ahead and donating as well because I love all the hard work that goes into India Currents.
Aw, thanks, Yashu. That's so sweet. So yeah, what a good point. It's all about representation, and ethnic media is representing you in this big media space, giving spaces to people who generally don't have a space to talk or even just like have a voice. So like this is really important, what's happening and propagating that kind of work. That is the spiel. I'm done asking. I'll ask one more time at the end because I have to, but I'm done with that. So today, Yashu got us lined up with two great interviewees. We're going to learn so much. It's going to be Desi representation in so many different ways. Yashu, talk to us. Like, what were you thinking when you got these interviewees, and like, what do you want us to learn today?
Absolutely. So for those of you who have been tapping in with India Currents, Desi Talk, thank you all, especially for those of you who have been so committed to us and catching us week after week with amazing content. Last week, we talked to the one and only Alka Joshi of the Henna Artist, which was an amazing interview. Like, I was so pumped up after that. But we talked a lot about the importance of Desi representation in media. And media is music, art, literature, TV, television, film, everything. And how it's so important to have the Desi representation and voice, not only for the quality of the production, but also because right now we're in a space where I think, like to say that our generation especially, we are establishing what it looks like to have a Desi community or culture in America, what that looks like, right? We have so many other cultural representations, especially because they've been here for so long, that right now I feel like we're in that phase of really establishing what does the Desi culture look like in America. And these different media outlets, for example, serve a really great purpose when it comes to representation and even inspiring people to pursue their dreams, which is exactly what our amazing guest speakers have done today.
Really good points. I think, you know, the one thing I learned from Alka Joshi was that you have to have this representation kind of at every step of the way, even in places that you wouldn't think of, like the showrunner, which is very like a small thing to have a Desi showrunner, but I didn't think that that was a significant thing. I thought about it in the writer's room, I thought about it with the actors, you know, but I didn't think about it with the showrunner. So we're learning as we're going with different people that are in these spaces. So with that, let me introduce our first interviewee, because I think this is something I hadn't thought about before in terms of representation. So our first interviewee is Sakib Hossain. He's a Bangladeshi international photographer, videographer, and sound guy for shows, documentaries, and movies. He's worked on productions in the US, but some of his most exciting works have been in Colombia. And right now, he's currently hired to do a food video in Puerto Rico. So I think we have so much to learn, because that's incredible. He's been all over. And let me just invite him into the chat.
And while we bring people on, you know, I think it's so important, and let us know why you think Desi representation is important. Be sure to drop it in the comments. Hi, Sakib.
Hey guys. How's it
How
going?
are you? It's going great. How are you?
Pretty good. Not too bad.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to have you on board here. I know you have got all the exciting stories in the world to share with us, so we are super thrilled to have you here.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
of course.
So we want to go ahead and kind of, like, you know, start off with, you know, just tell us, you know, where you're from, you know, originally, where you're located now, and, you know, just how you got started with the whole film and production and photography, all of that beautiful stuff.
Yeah, so originally I'm from Bangladesh. I was born and raised there in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and then I moved here when I was like in my high school days. And I guess during college is when I found out about the media program, and I went into that. And now I do video, photo, and audio around Florida, and also international.
That is amazing. Is it me, or is Srishti frozen?
So she's definitely frozen. Do you want to recall everyone?
I think we can hear her, and so I'm hoping that it's going to pop back up.
I might have to leave this. I'm not sure what's happening. Oh, there we go.
Oh, we got you back.
Oh my God, thank God. I'm so sorry. I don't know what is happening right now. Technology is hard. You're saying all these good things, and I'm like trying to fix my phone. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Well, I'm glad we don't have to start all over. Okay, so yes, please keep going. So sorry, I got distracted.
No, you're fine. So
let's recap what just was said, because I literally lost the sound and the video, so I don't know what's going on.
Oh, no worries. So I'm from Bangladesh, born and raised there. Lived most of my life there, and I moved here when I was in my high school days. And during college is when I found out about the media program, and I got into it, and now this is where I'm at. I do video, photo, and audio.
Wow.
Yep.
So I definitely want to ask, you know, why film and
So
production?
why
Like,
film?
what about it?
This is a good story because, like every other brown guy, I was trying to do engineering or trying some sort of science degree to appease my parents. But I hated math, so I ended up going around trying to do programming. Eventually, my mentor, who mentors me right now, is the one who suggested, hey, check out this photo program that we got in our college. So I did. 5 years later, I still know him. We still work together. And I'm actually going with him to Puerto Rico because it's his project. I'm working as sound.
Wow. That's really cool. So you didn't know this was your passion until you took this class?
Yeah, this wasn't my passion originally. My passion is like anything to do with computer, I ended up doing playing games on it. But now I edit on it. Now I work on it. I do video editing, photo editing, and audio editing.
And do
So
you think, like, and I think this is where we can kind of talk about that Desi representation, right? From your experience being a Desi person where your parents were not too, forward, or even just having a conversation like, hey, there's this industry called film and audio and, all of that stuff. Like, how do you
oh no,
feel
okay.
about
So
being?
that story is a whole different beast. I don't think I told them until like I was 2, 3 years into my film thing.
Oh my
Because
God.
before then, they assumed I was still doing engineering. I was like, no, I'm just gonna keep doing it, and eventually tell them, because their main concern is they only understand that engineers and doctors end up
Make
making money, which is
money.
untrue. Every other field makes money, and I don't know why people don't see it that way. So I told them
Also, I
based
have a
on.
question. I have a question. So you were already in the States when you started going to college, but what was your visa like? Were you on a green card? Like,
Oh, I was.
you know what?
I'm a first generation immigrant.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is like when you were going to college, right? After you
Yeah.
finish college, you generally are on like an H-1B visa or you have to like get sponsored to stay unless you're a US citizen,
Oh
right?
no, no,
So
no. So
okay.
I was originally an immigrant. Yeah, I immigrated here, and I was going through the immigration process throughout my high school years. So in
Hmm.
the first or second year of college is when I took the test to become a U.S.
I
citizen,
see.
and after that, I became a U.S. citizen.
So I was
So
just gonna comment that I think a lot of the reason why immigrant parents want kids to be doctors and engineers is because when you like don't have a US citizenship, you can only do
mhm,
a skilled trade in the country, right? And skilled
correct.
trade is like very specific. It's like a PhD and like a doctorate or whatever. And so that I think, I mean, or engineer. And I think that like my parents were the same way. I mean, I know Yeshu's parents were the same way. All of our parents were thinking like, okay, you have to stay in the country and you have to make a ton of money, and these are the ways to do it. But I think it's great that you got your citizenship before you went to college, because then, or during college, because then you can kind
Yeah,
of pursue your passion, right?
that changed a lot of the things, but it still didn't change the mentality of being
Hmm.
unsure of. They're mostly scared because they don't know what this degree is or how does it function. Because in their
Hmm.
mind, the perception is from the outside world, whatever perception they have. So it's because my mom's a housewife, my dad's a chef, so they're definitely not in the field, your typical field of engineering or doctors or a
Hmm.
professor. So their knowledge is very limited. So that's why I think they were very scared in the beginning.
And I
Um,
think representation, right? It's kind of a two-way thing. Representation, of course, is like in the industry, and like for example, being the only Desi person in your unit or team, or in this particular production. But then also representation as far as education and like having even that voice saying, hey, I want to do this degree, but there's no other Desi person who's doing it. Why are you going to do that? It's a fear almost
Correct,
because
because there
you're
was
not
no
represented.
representation. It was hard to gauge what I was
Hmm.
going through. It was more like a gamble at that point to them, but it was guaranteed you'll find a job or something around those lines. Because right now I freelance, I go around the world. It's all paid. Literally, my job is basically paid vacation, going around places.
So wait,
So.
is it hard to like I know you're saying all these like really great things, but is it like hard to get a job? Like what I'm obviously there's like a threshold you have to cross where people have to like know you and trust you and you have to be really good,
Yes,
and then
correct.
maybe the jobs
So
start rolling in. So what was that like?
So in the film industry, you gotta have patience, lots of patience. And one thing we're taught, never lose your cool, no matter what, no matter who it is, who you have a problem with, because you're constantly working with different groups every single time, including the actors.
Hmm.
Actors to production crew, they're always different, no matter which group you end up working with. So it's pretty. I mean, you have to know a lot of people. It's basically a mix between your professionalism, how much you know, versus how much you can network. It's both. It both has to be like thrown at
And
the world.
have you ever been like, I mean, this is kind of like a very pointed question, but have you ever faced any type of discrimination being like a Desi person doing this job and being like the only one in this space, or like not getting a job because you were of a certain, I mean, I would even say Bangladeshis are definitely much even more marginalized than other Desi people. So like, did you ever face
Mhm.
these issues?
Uh, well, not really. Well, no, I didn't face any of those problems that was faced by other people. I'm pretty sure other people have faced it, even if it's not me. The reason I didn't face it because I have three different job sets. I'm a photographer, a videographer, and an audio guy. If I have a specific job as a videographer, then yeah, I'm competing against other videographers on set. But if I have a job as an audio guy, nobody's competing with me because audio guys are rare to find, which is why I got treated like an angel on TV sets. Because without audio, literally the rest of the crew is freaking out. You can't get the job started.
Yeah.
Same with me. If I'm doing a video, I freak out whenever I don't see the audio guy. So,
Hmm.
So do you think there's like, you have to, even within the industry, kind of, again, coming back to that Desi representation, that do you think it's important, or it's a strategic way to kind of get your foot in the door by picking these positions which are important, and then once you start to kind of build your career, that's when your name might be more recognized? Do you think that that's a good strategy for other Desis who might be tapping into this live?
yeah, correct. Because Uh, the Daisy representation we have in the Hollywood community is very low, but usually M. Night Shyamalan would pop up, but he has both good and bad reputation. He's known to make really bad movies, but also really good movies. Overall, he's a good filmmaker. It's just people tend to look at his bad stuff more. No idea why, but he has created other great stuff besides Avatar.
Right. So my question to you is, I feel like you're saying a lot of things, but you even said like I have like three different qualifications because, and I'm going back to Yeshu's question just to like get you
Yeah,
to answer it. And like you had to get your foot in the door, and that required you to have three different, like you have to be multifaceted, multi-talented. Is that
correct.
true for every person going into this space, or is it harder as like a person of color going into these spaces and having to do it? Because I can't imagine, since there's like no like you don't really know a lot of people that have been doing this, right? Because
Correct.
people
And
like
yeah,
us
I
don't
don't
do it.
see a lot of what do you call Desi people doing it, brown people, as I say it. I do see a lot of my colleagues are mostly black and white people, so it's just I'm one of the only ones on set. So yeah, it is quite surprising. But being in Florida does help. You do see a lot more diversity compared to a lot of other places. So I don't know, or I wouldn't be able to talk about other different states, but they're they're pretty like if we're talking about Utah, there's probably white people in that production team. It's not going to be a mix between a lot of colors.
And I think Sakib, like even with his mentor and his production team, and this is something that definitely had me and Sakib connect, right? And that's where I think me and Sakib met, is that we work with a lot of people from diverse backgrounds,
Hmm.
predominantly like the Black community. So that itself being a minority community where they're trying to make these productions, I think that that's also in a sense something that Sakib strategically chose for himself as well. I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I'm just saying, like, just like knowing that we've worked together, and we're in these
Correct.
communities of Black representation,
Yeah.
especially here in Florida. I think that's definitely been
Um,
something that has been a connecting factor as opposed to a discriminatory factor.
Hmm.
So discrimination does happen because I just remembered a story. One of my colleagues, who's I won't say who they are, but they have complained that uh, about working with different races, and one of the races happened to be Desi.
Hmm.
So then he looked at me and goes, "Oh no, you're fine. You're one of the good ones." I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's just everyone's the same."
Yeah.
It just depends on how your attitude is in the industry and how far you can go with that.
So
That's why
what
I
do you
say,
think? what do you think is the importance of having people of color and Desi people doing jobs like this? Like, what value add do you bring?
Being open-minded. That's the first thing, because I come from Desi culture, and our culture is very unique, very colorful at times, but at times it's also very close-minded. But depends on the subject. Which is why, in order to like basically expand out, you have to like basically go into your uncomfortable zone
Hmm.
and work with the things that you have or you don't have, because I didn't have anybody to look up to, because my mentor, he's not Desi, he's black, so he's a black man who I looked up to, and that's the only representation of the closest color I have.
Yeah.
If there were other people who were my skin tone or who came from a similar background, then I would understand. But even then, if I had another Indian person working around me, it would be totally different because I'm Bangladeshi, he's Indian. So all these variables kind of like makes us pretty interesting to work with.
Yeah, I think what's really important that you and Yashu kind of commented on was that actually like minorities support each other, right? Regardless of like where you're from, because you kind of understand the similar experiences that you've been through. So that's always helpful. And we try so hard to like put ourselves in these boxes, but it's like unifying to like acknowledge it and then to
Correct.
help and mentor one another. Because I definitely think like and Yashu, you should, I don't know what you thought about this, but I know for me in science, like I was in a lot of spaces where actually I was like, there was nobody like me and I couldn't find them. And I was like seeking them and there was no one to mentor me. And I was just constantly struggling. And that was part of the representation was like, you don't have a mentor. Like, you don't have someone that like gets you, you know, you just like to say, like, oh, I'm like struggling with this. And like my parents, you know, said this and then this happened or whatever. Like, there's no one to get these like cultural references. And it helps when there's that background. Yeah. Go ahead,
And I
Jesse.
think what's something important is that, and this is for like, for example, all of our viewers who are tapping in, the value that Sakib brings, I think, is how determined he is with his goal, right? And that's why I think he kind of touched on how being Desi and like your family, I think a really big burden that you carry when it comes to Desi representation is your cultural baggage. It's like facing
Mhm.
what my parents are going to say, what my aunties and uncles are going to say, like, and in terms of Sakib, like I always knew that he, kind of followed this dream. He was very cutthroat with like, okay, family is over there, but this is what I want to do with my career. And I think that's truly
Yes.
so
So
Yes,
inspiring.
Sakib, you keep going. You do
I mean,
you.
she hit the point or right on point because I'm dealing with two different cultures. I'm dealing with the American culture as well as the Desi culture. So I really had to put a line and cut out what I couldn't bring to the professional world,
Mm.
which was my Desi side, and I couldn't connect with a lot of the people because of that.
Oh.
So
But
what
do
I
you
had to do
think
is
that
learn.
now that you have your foot in the door, now that you are doing these big moves, right? Do you think that you're going to go back to that concept of, hey, we need more Desis here. I need to bring more of my Bangladeshi culture into this space. Do you think that that's something valuable and important that you're, bringing in?
He's like, nah.
It depends. I mean, I wouldn't mind somebody who works hard and gets to their goal. And if that's in our Desi blood, then I welcome it. I very much welcome it. But
Well,
because of who I was before and who I am right now, those are two completely different persons. So obviously,
I think
I would try to.
one thing that you said that was really important was like, not getting to bring your full self into a space, right?
Correct.
Like that's like a crazy thing that we all actually do, which is like we silence and erase parts of ourselves to make other people comfortable. And I think that you're like, I don't care, I got the job, I'm gonna do what I want. But it would be nice, and I think like what we're talking about here is like, hey man, you deserve that. You deserve the whole of you being represented in the space. And
I mean, I have
hopefully,
stories which I can't share, but one day I will
oh,
get to share them. Basically,
okay.
I there are times I'm myself, and Yashi knows that. and it drives her nuts. I'm like, Sakib, you can't go to a meeting like that. I was like, I get
Well,
it, but that's my
I do
Desi
want
side.
you to share this experience though, right? So Sakib got a chance to go to Colombia for a video production, and he came across the Bata shoe
Oh yes,
showroom in Colombia. And immediately he sent pictures to me and me and
That's
some other
crazy.
Desi friends,
Yeah.
because that's something he was able to like kind of connect with,
yeah,
you
I
know?
connected with that. I was like, I see something Desi. I'm like, let me take a picture. I sent it to
In
Yashu. I sent it to
Colombia?
Sky.
Whoa, that's pretty
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
Bata is apparently a European country. I mean, company, not a Indian company.
Oh, well, you wouldn't know.
Yeah,
You
there
would
you
not know. All right,
And
well,
like,
we're almost at our time actually, but just to close out, I really do want you to share like a little bit about the projects that you're working on and how we can follow and support you and where we can find you. I know you're not on the screen, but we can look for you in places.
Of course.
So, yeah.
So for the last couple of years, it's been hectic. A lot of my work will be hopefully released at the end of this year or the next year. I will try to post them on my Instagram, kiba.photography. Hopefully Yashu can type that in somewhere and
yes,
everyone
and he
can see
is
it.
on IMDb, so you can definitely check him
And
out.
yes, if you Google my name in the IMDb, there should be a page with some of the work I've done. There should be more up on that website as I'm moving along the years, because my work depends on when the directors decide to publish it. Until then, you won't see my name. So it's kind
So
of
what
work
is there
dependent.
something I would already know you from, potentially?
Um, If you, I worked as a PA on Cocaine, The Legend of Cocaine Island on Netflix. So if you go to the credits, you'll see my name over there. Um,
Okay.
so
We'll check it
that's one
out.
of the things you can look up. And hopefully the movies I worked on comes out this year or next year, so I can actually talk about it more in depth. So
Okay, great. That's really amazing. So, IMDb Sakib, his Instagram page is actually linked. It's pinned in this chat here. And you can find it. You'll find out in the occurrence once this live goes up. So, if you have any questions for him, if you're someone that's pursuing a career in this field, definitely, I think Sakib, you might be a good person for them to talk to and get some idea of like what to do.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know if we lost Yashu. I hope she comes back.
I hope so too.
I hope she comes back. Oh yeah, there she is. Let me add her back. But thank you, Sakib, so much for joining. It's really cool to have met you, and it's so wonderful to hear from somebody that Yashu knows. There she is, the queen herself.
Um,
I don't know what happened, but I'm back.
All right,
Yay.
great. I'm just saying thank you to Sakib. We're gonna have him leave this chat if that's okay. You can press that X button
All right.
at the top. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank
Take
you
care,
for
guys.
joining us and giving
Bye,
us
Sakib.
perspective, and a rather, strong perspective, I will say, right? We usually hear very kind of like the sympathetic kind of storyline, from a lot of people, but today I think Sakib really gave us a different perspective completely, where he talked about,
Of
what it
lost
takes
sympathy
to
while working. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
what it
I
takes to
do
really
head out literally in less than 12 hours to Colombia. I mean, not Colombia,
Oh,
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. Yeah. I was gonna be like, I know
have
what you're working
fun.
on. All right,
So
Sakib,
take care, guys.
take care. Thank you so much for
Oh,
being
wait, you
with
had a
us.
question?
No, I was gonna be like, just hit that X button so we
Oh,
can
yeah.
bring our next
Okay.
interviewer on. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Okay, so that was really enlightening. Thank you for bringing him on, Yashu. What are your thoughts?
I will say, it was definitely a different perspective, right? And when we again think about Desi representation, we're always kind of like in that sympathetic space, like, oh, well, we're not getting represented, blah blah blah. But I think Sakib brings that perspective where he said, listen, sometimes you got to cut that Desi for a minute, right? You got to cut that Desi from you so you can really establish yourself in the role you're in. And for me, like, for example, a model, which is also media, right? Representation in media. I'm one of the world's first South Indian plus size models in America, right? And for me, I know I have to put a pause on my Desi. I gotta leave my Desi baggage home to establish myself first, right? To be able to say, no, I can do this. Oh, you need me to do this, this, and this. Okay, I will do it. So I can get my foot in the door. And then at that point, that representation, I think, automatically comes once you have that, you know, power and authority, which I think currently Sakib is still trying to build. But I really love, you know, how authentic and raw he kept it there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's like, you know, I can't bring my whole self, but fuck it, I'm just gonna keep working hard. And I respect that because we need people like him to kind of forge the path, and then like maybe other people can kind of come into that space and bring their whole self. With that, do you want to introduce our next guest that we have
Yes, I'm so excited to introduce my friend Santhosh Ram. He is an aspiring filmmaker and actor from Andhra Pradesh, flew all the way to Los Angeles, California. He's currently doing his master's at New York Film Academy in Studio City, Burbank, Los Angeles, and he's trying to make it big in India and LA as a filmmaker and actor. And I'm so excited to talk to Santhosh, who's going to give us a real scoop on how it is to even go through the education process when it comes to film and media.
All right, I asked Santhosh to join us.
Yes.
And here he is. Hi.
Hi. How are you guys? Hey, Yashu. Hey, Srishti. Hi.
Hi. So
Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Sorry, I went straight into it. Yashu, why don't you ask the question?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you just got back from film school like a couple of hours ago. You had an assignment, and I'm definitely going to ask you, you know, about the kind of work that you do. But before that, go ahead and tell us, where are you from? You know, what brought you to America, and how has your experience been in America so far?
I'm from Nellore. It's a place in Andhra Pradesh. So I was born and brought up over there, and then I moved to Bangalore, did my bachelor's in business administration and marketing, and then I've done my acting training with Satyanand Garu. He taught Prabhas, Mahesh Babu, like a lot of South Indian superstars out there. Luckily, I got trained with him, and after that, I thought, like, okay, let me pursue filmmaking since it's been my dream since my childhood. And then, and then I've seen this school called New York Film Academy. I've been following up with their work and all. And I've seen like a lot of Indians who had come there from Bollywood or from Hyderabad and from Chennai as well. So I thought, like, okay, let me come here, do my master's here. So it's been like 6 months. It's going pretty good. I loved it. It's awesome. I'm
So
so excited. I'm like, what's up there?
What are you
So
learning?
I'm studying masters in fine arts and filmmaking, film directing. So it covers everything with directing, cinematography, writing, post-production, sound. You just had like a sound boom operator, sound production, I guess. So I've been working on sound as well, and then these subjects keep coming, like complete 24 crafts in filmmaking. We get hands-on like every spot of that.
That's so amazing. And so, you know, I know you had said it was a dream to be in the film industry from a very young age. Why do you love film? What about film, or why this field or industry?
I mean, like, I'm not a person who you can put it in an office for 9 to 5 for sure. I can't.
So you did, what did you did? Finance and marketing? Something like that, business and marketing? You would have been in a 9 to 5.
I've studied that just because about Desi parents who's you're either going to be an engineer, doctor. My dad was lucky enough. He was like, okay, anyways, you have a business, you got to take it down further down the lane. I was like, okay, cool. For him, I studied bachelor's, and this is what I want to do for myself. And I was like, okay, give me some time. Let me go do what I wanted to do. And then here I am.
So if it doesn't work out, you have to go back and do the business thing, or what's your long-term?
Long-term, fuck the business. Let me stay here and then do what I love. I want to do what I love.
Well, that's
So I
So
have
awesome.
pretty much it's
seen,
gonna be like me going back to I could see myself going back to India and then work in the films if I get like better opportunities, or if I think like I have like enough talent, and then um I'll definitely stay here and do whatever it comes in the film industry for sure. But I don't want to leave this, even though, but if I go like 40 years doing business or something, I don't want to leave the film for sure. I'll either be in production, I'll either be producing my films or producing someone else's films, but end of the day, I'm going to be a storyteller for sure.
love that.
I
And
like
I
the
love that
confidence.
passion. Yes. So I have to ask you, right? So you talk about film and everything, and you said, if not in America, then I'll do it in India. Right now in America, do you feel like there's a lot of other Indian students, or there's a lot of Indian representation or Desi representation in, for example, even in your school?
Definitely there. I mean, like when I came, I was the only one, and then as a semester passed, I've seen like a lot of people from Mumbai, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal,
Wow.
Sri Lanka. There's a really good Indian community in my school. But when I came here, I was probably like one of the very few guys who came to New York Film Academy. And as the semester passed, because I came during the COVID times, and then there were like a lot of restrictions which were coming around. I luckily somehow I crossed that and I came here, and then after that, you see a lot of Indian people out here for sure.
And
Yeah.
does that make you feel proud? Are you proud to see the Desi representation? What does that mean for all of us, who are looking to see more representation? Do you see that potential building basically?
Definitely. I mean, like right now, what you see, like the Hollywood is kind of getting like opening its wings for people, like a lot of diversity and people for color and more like Indian representation. Like Eternals, you've seen the Eternals, like you've
Yeah,
seen Kumla
Kumail.
Nanjiani,
Yeah.
and the guy who was that his PA, he was like a Bollywood actor before, and then he went to UK, and then he did the theater over there, and now you see him in like the biggest Marvel movie. And 40 years ago, he was like a nobody in Bollywood. Man. I mean, like nobody really
Which
knew, and then now you see like really good Eternals movie.
you mean
So I see,
Kumail or somebody else?
the PA guy in the Eternals. Let me check. What's his name? You've seen there's like a chubby PA for Kumlan, right? He's from India. He's like a Bollywood producer or something.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that.
he,
I'm learning. I'm learning from you. I didn't know about this. That's great. That's awesome.
he he's there from the start till the end. So there was really good Indian representation over there. There were a couple of few Hindi dialogues as well. And it's really
Mm,
good to see, like the Hollywood is actually, trying to give space for them and program. There's certain programs by Academy, like who gives up the Oscars and all. They're trying up opening, classes and then trying to pick up people, from the minorities and all. It's kind of really good, like all the thing is like it depends on your talent, though, how good you are, how good you can network with people, and then get into that level. The
interesting.
world.
So, do you like the representation that you're seeing, or do you think, I mean, I don't know if you would know what the South Asian scene in America is like, yeah,
Mhm.
because you've only been here like 6 months, but for
Right.
us, like, whenever we see things on TV, a lot of times it seems like misrepresentation or like, just like kind of like they tried, but it was weird. It wasn't very good. And so, yeah, seeing Kumail as a Marvel star is awesome because that's like the first ever Desi
Superhero, right.
superhero that we've seen. And him being so ripped is super cool because he was not. But I mean, that's like the kind of like we're seeing the beginnings of it. So I don't know. Do you feel like no, like it was already kind of good, or you're also in like this is the beginning, like we're getting there, it's like gonna get better. What do you think?
I see right now, film is right now in their golden age, post COVID and all, and then content especially is accessible for anywhere. I mean, like you can make a film in India or you can make a film in America.
Hmm.
It's gonna reach the entire world. So people try, I guess people have started watching a lot of international films, and then
Yeah, I was
the
gonna say.
and the the thin barrier about misrepresentation, and then the representation is more like trying to overdo what the cultural stereotypes are. So
Mm-hmm.
you see. Okay, I don't know if I don't know if I don't want to be misrepresenting anything, but sometimes you see a lot, the Punjabi guys being like a taxi driver or some.
That,
You
yes.
see them all the time. You see that all the time, and then that.
Actually, Sakib just said the same thing that you said. He just messaged us and he said he wants to see people playing something other than like an IT guy or a waiter or a taxi cab driver. And like I don't know if you watched Master of None on Netflix, but in that he has this episode about how you can't have more than one Indian guy in a show. Like the
Okay.
two guys are competing for the same role. And it's because like it happened to black people, it happened to like it happens in everything where they'll say like, okay, we can only have one minority person playing in this like entire series, and that's not accurate, right? Because look, there's three of us right here talking. We could all be on our own show. So it's like that's I think the points that you're making are totally valid. Like the type of characters that we're playing need to be different. There needs to be more than one role for an Indian person. And you're pursuing filmmaking, right? So like, you would create these storylines that would have more representation,
I
I'm
mean,
assuming.
see, sometimes it's let's say like we've gone out to like Italy or somewhere like Switzerland or something. You go see Italian food is really good. You say like you go to Paris, you say like Paris technology is really good. The fashion is really good. You go to Japan, the technology is really good. You see something like from a foreign perspective. And then you pick up what is really glory out there and you try to bring it out in your stories. And sometimes they don't like it because it's not really accurate. That's where I see the misrepresentation is all happening. If we
Mm.
started just telling our stories really better, I've seen a lot of second gen Americans trying to give that first gen desi aunties kind of vibe. Where was this? There's this new film called Indian Sweets and
India
Spices,
Sweets
I
and
guess.
Spices, yeah.
Yeah, see, these kind of stories are, they need to come a lot to represent their own culture and stuff. But
Yeah, and not what's
maybe, mm,
palatable to other people,
mm,
right? Because they're like, oh, Indian culture is just, or Desi culture is just like dancing and Indian clothes and whatever. And it's like that, and Holi, and Diwali. But it's like, yeah, you're right. Like the nitty gritty of India's sweet and spices. And Yashu, I don't know if you know about this film or if you've seen it yet, but it's like about like being like a young kid growing up as like a Desi American and then like going to these parties with aunties and like actually seeing like the dynamic of like what the aunties talk about and why they behave the way that they behave. And I think it's like so true because I grew up in these communities of aunties that you're like, why are they being so crazy? And then you start to get to know them more as an adult because as a kid you didn't care to get to know them. And I thank you for bringing that up. That's a good movie. Everyone should go see it.
I was supposed to go for the premieres, but I couldn't. But I'll definitely check it out, watch it, and see what's because first Americans, the culture is kind of different. By having like Indian people in Hyderabad or in Chennai or in Mumbai is different from first American Desi aunties all putting it together. It's not totally the same. It's not totally same at the same time. It's kind of different as well. So
Hmm.
we are so rich and diverse in culture. If you go to any state, the entire thing differs. So when we come here, we say like, oh, we are all Indians. When we are in India, oh, you're like a Tamil guy, you're like a Telugu guy, you're like a Hindi guy, you're like a Guju guy. So these kind of
And I
vibes,
think that's important. I think that's a very important point, right? Desi representation also means, there's so much cultural difference in India, and rather than boxing everyone into, okay, brown Indian or Desi dude, right? Even Sakib brought this up. He said, well, there's going to be disparity or differences between Bangladeshi and Indian, right? There's those nuances, those differences. And so when it comes to representation, really being able to put that in, I think is also very powerful. For me, like I said, as a model, there are many plus size Indian American models, but there's not many plus size Indian American models from Andhra Pradesh. And so that is where that is still important. That is still representation. That is still a lot of people, that we're representing. So I think for you, Ram, I just kind of want to also kind of touch on, being from Andhra Pradesh and you've seen the film industry in Andhra Pradesh and you're seeing the film industry in America. are you noticing differences in how the back end is working? Like the production, is it different there versus here, or is it all basically the same?
I mean, the science is pretty much the same. I mean, like technically wise, everything goes the same. The process goes the same. But you see, we come from a place where we tell stories from our fairy tales or something which is rooted in the culture, and then and then stories which you come in the Hollywood, the work style is different, and the work timings are different, and we can if we I mean like the way we show passion to our films is completely different. What I see in LA is more like I feel like it's a 9 to 5 job again, whereas like no way. I mean like this kind of passion has to be some completely different out here. We need to find more Indian people telling Indian stories that I see in the end. But as in filmmaking and all, it's kind of same. But when you start getting into the LA production wise and how the hierarchy goes, and like if I could tell you the technical spots, I can tell you everything. But on a whole, uh, the things here goes like in terms of hierarchy, it's more military driven because the industry developed from post World War and the military guys. So it's kind of
Oh.
it's kind of an hierarchy system. Where in India you don't see that fine line of hierarchy out there. Everything is kind of smudged, so everyone's kind of doing everything at the same time.
Hmm.
So that's kind of a
Which do
little
you
different.
prefer? Which do you prefer?
Like if I take a job, I mean like if I'm getting paid, then this
Yeah,
is
you're getting paid equally. Which one do you want?
I see going back. I mean, like I'm more like an indie kind of a perspective, kind of a person, with a large scale in mind. But for me, if there is an AD, he has to have an equal take in this film. We all like it's the matter of teamwork comes where everyone takes their own take of the film and then come up with constructive criticism and then finding a one spot and making that film really work. So on the page, it might say, okay, directed by Santhosh Ram, but Santhosh Ram is nothing if there's no team behind me. So I kind of
Wow.
work
All
in
right.
that kind of perspective.
Yes. So we need somebody that's making everyone play on an equal level
Equal level,
field.
yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I've never thought, I mean, again, I feel like we're learning so much because not being in the film industry or any sort of like industry like that, I actually don't know behind the scenes like how that works and that I didn't even know that there was like this military concept behind Hollywood.
I would say, do you think that after, like, once we know you're going to do an amazing job and, be this filmmaker that you want to be, but say you do choose to be a filmmaker and you're making a film in the US, do you want to bring part of that Indian film culture to your productions? Like, if you're the filmmaker or whatever, do you want to make it like it's almost like you're having some of the Desi elements from the Desi film industry reflected, or how do you see yourself?
True. I see. I'm a pakka, like a proper desi guy. That I mean, like it's been 6 months. You don't expect me to change a lot, and I'm not ready to change as well. This is gonna stay with me.
It's gonna take years. It'll take years.
Let's give it 2-3 generations for that.
Yeah. Okay.
So the thing is, like the stories which come up are gonna be kind of Indian. So I expect to see a little bit of Desi people around me, so that there's gonna be a kind of positivity around me, and they can understand, okay, if this is really working for this kind of stuff, because they might have experienced the same things what I've seen, if not exactly the same, similar stuff. So those kind of things that I really wanted to show here, if I have a little bit of like my comfort level, there'll be a sense of comfort with people of your community and all. Maybe it could be the language, or it could be the way we work, or it's easier to get that chemistry between the your peer, rather than finding someone from all the way from another side and trying to make them. But here, if you want to work, you gotta be that though. So if you want to make it big, you definitely want to keep like what the brother said before. You gotta leave that desi baggage and trying to open up your mind and then see, because people here it's so talent driven. So you gotta be hardcore and you know pull it out there. Don't take like, okay, let me find another desi guy to come and let me join the group. You don't see much in terms of volume. You got to work with people, let's say from 30 different nationalities, or probably 10 different nationalities. You got to keep it like that, or you should be the only one who thriving with your set of talents into the industry, into the project
I
also.
think, kind of touching on going back to what Alka Joshi had said, right? Your differences are what kind of drive you to your success. And I think, kind of what Sakib and Santhosh are kind of touching on is like owning the fact that we're Desi, but then also leaving our Desi baggage, there, and not, it's almost kind of like we cannot group together in representation. We have to stand out so that later on we can create a path for representation.
Well, I mean, I think here is where I might disagree, but I think it's like, I don't agree or disagree. That's the wrong term. I think I might have a different take on this than what is. Here's what I think. I think that there's not that many paths already clear, especially in like the film industry. So every person doing it is trying to figure out what's the best way to do it. And especially when that doesn't exist, you do have to leave your baggage. Or I feel like calling it baggage is wrong. I would say you have to leave your culture to the side in order to make it, because right now you're goal oriented, you're driven. Once you get there, then you can start kind of exploring all these different elements of your culture and your personality. And I think I totally see like you guys are having to, and I think this might be a difference in industry right now. Like my job is similar. Like there isn't that much representation on a global or even a national scale. But I do my little part. I keep trying. But that said, nothing is going to happen until I go to an organization like, the New York Times, and I starting to do things where I pull people. But I think you do your part in small ways. And I feel like that's what I'm hearing is that, like, when you're there, you're going to try to create a sense of community, a level playing field, maybe more of a Desi culture that you've seen in Andhra Pradesh, where like everyone is working together and there's less like focus on the hierarchy. And that's your culture. That's what you're bringing. You're going to bring that. And I think that's kind of what you're trying to say to me. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Like, if I put it in one way, it's like culture is something who you are, but work has to be something what you can do. So if you can do something, irrespective of what the culture is, where you're from and all, if you're talented enough, you can come up on the top. And your culture will definitely come with the stories you tell. And when you have the power to tell your story,
when you say talented enough, that's where I disagree with you, because I think there are many people that are talented enough, but the way the United States has placed a minority community is like you can be as talented as the person over here, but that person will get the job because they're not a person of color. So you have to know that going into the scenarios that, I mean, I think you're kind of new to the country. So maybe that's also, I don't know, like, I really don't know where you're at with the understanding of systemic oppression, but like it is work. It is work ethic, but we can't minimize that fact that other people have privileges that immigrants and minorities don't. So before we end, though, I do really want you to tell us, what are you working on and how can we support you and all of that? Like, what's the good stuff?
Oh, I'm always available on Instagram. So if you guys need any kind of a help, or if you want guys to collaborate, you can always DM me there. And right now I'm working on my intermediate project that I'm gonna shoot in Feb. It's gonna be a vampire kind of a comedy film, and after that.
Wow.
And after that, that's where I'm trying to bring my power. I'm going back to India to do my thesis film, to make a story which is deep rooted in India, to bring that out and show it in the US.
Ooh, that's exciting. That's Desi representation right there. Love it.
Even you might know anything about if what does he say? Textile revival.
Mm.
So it's about that. It's this is something more unique that
Is it
people
like a
from India.
documentary? It's a documentary? Yeah.
I mean, leave the documentaries for people who watch documentaries. I wanted to reach the mass media, so give it in a way that people, people from every size of every part can actually enjoyable and the same time get a message of it.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm so excited. The inner Andhra Pradesh in me is like so excited.
That sounds like a very
So,
interesting topic.
yeah.
Have you already done your research? Like all of, you know what you're gonna, oh, you don't know yet. Okay.
No.
Oh,
I've started doing my research.
Me
oh,
There are a lot of
too.
things that I'll try bringing out probably in like next year once I start penning down my stories and all. There's a lot of even though if I start doing a lot of research, there still has to be research done. And when I start scripting out, when things come out really good, I'll come reach out to you guys to like promote me again.
Most definitely. And hey, like I know me and Santhosh have had many conversations about the textile industry because, I would want to have my own textile thing going on. So I know that Santhosh, this movie is going to be amazing. I wish you all the best for your thesis. I cannot wait to see it. Make sure you send it to us. And hey, India Current.
Love to probably check it out. Maybe do a
yes,
little review article or whatever. Try to give you a shout out on there.
definitely. Let us know when you've created a film. We'd love to review it. We reviewed the India Sweets and Spices. That's how and we also interviewed the director and the actress in the film. So that's kind of, we're always out there looking for those Indian stories. So if you definitely do one, let us know, and I will be happy to make sure we feature you. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Santhosh. You can click on that X button at the top. Thank you for joining us. You've been so insightful. It's so wonderful to learn from you. And yeah,
It was
you can
nice
go ahead
meeting
and
you guys.
nice meeting you. Bye.
Bye. So that was really interesting, and I know this particular episode was very different from a lot of narratives that we hear from.
Mhm.
And I kind of want to get your comments on this, Srishti, because I know I kind of threw curveballs at you today. This is not like our traditional interviews that we usually do. So how did you feel about this whole conversation?
You're right. There aren't our usual conversations. It was definitely pretty different. I feel like I learned a lot. I think that they're both, people that are nascent in their stages of like going into this industry. And it's really interesting to hear how they're thinking about their culture and the representation and who are their mentors and how are they moving forward. And also like thinking about like, okay, like now that once they enter this industry, what are they going to do? How are they going to think about it? And I think even though in some ways they're kind of like saying like, no, leave it at the door. Like, don't think about it. It's like in the back. I actually think that they really are thinking about it in the ways that they talk about the things that they want to bring to the table, whether that's narratives or like just even feeling whole in some ways or it's just like I see it. I feel like you connect with all the different minority people because that is your way of representing yourself and showcasing your culture. And just being in that space in and of itself is part of that. So, yeah.
And I think that's super powerful. And I think a lot of times we hear the fairy tale stories. We hear this person who made it big. We interview these people who are like, they've hit that, ultimate jackpot and whoa, what an inspiring story. But I really wanted to bring on my two friends here, Santhosh and Sakib, because they are like the millions of us. They see people who are trying to make it.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to establish ourselves. What are the difficulties that we face and what are the things that run through our mind? And a lot of times, and I can relate to it, a lot of times it is, maybe I do have to put a pause on my desi, culture for a minute so I can really establish myself. And I think even when Santhosh was talking about talent and representation, I think we're kind of getting the other perspective. It's a known fact, I think, that, minorities, we're oppressed, we don't get the opportunities. But I think the other perspective that we're kind of getting from these interviews is that sometimes once you get your foot in the door and especially in such a competitive field like the film industry, right, where there's like 10 people competing for this position of one actor or one hero role or something like that, you want to be the best and you want to stand out, and sometimes we have to put some things on the back burner, right?
Definitely, yeah.
But once we get there, that's when we're allowed to be in that space of opening it up for other people. And I think that's where, for example, if it's like a news media, right, you want as much content flooding as much as possible, versus here, I think it's more of like the funneling, so that you're basically like, oh wait, this Daisy guy is very talented. Like, oh my gosh, he did so good in this movie. Maybe we should get more Daisy people. And that's where I think it's like a slightly different narrative. Same thing for like modeling. It's okay to like be a model and be a Daisy model and talk about it, but the difference of like, wait, let me put my Daisy behind and let me really stand out as just a model with my technical skills, and then I can open up for the other people. Do you kind of get what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, I think it's like, I really think that it's interesting to hear how they're thinking about it, how you're thinking about it, how I'm thinking about it, because I think we're all thinking about it in actually kind of like different ways. And I don't think there's one way to think about it. I just think that, like, I never want to hear when someone says, I don't feel whole in a space, right? You should always feel whole, and people should acknowledge that wholeness of you. And I think it's easy to say, you know, I'm going to wait till it gets better. I'm going to wait till I get there. And I know from experience, I've gotten to places where I did not feel whole even when I got to the top, you know, when I got to where I wanted to go. And I want us as a community to support that feeling of not being whole. And if you're not feeling whole and you're saying, I'm just going to work really hard, I want to acknowledge you're not feeling whole. You should work really hard. You should get your bread, but also know that feeling of not being whole, that's not a feeling everyone feels. That's a feeling that you get when you're not being represented, or you're not feeling comfortable in a space, you're not like being
so it's almost like today was like testimonies. We got testimonies from like the real experience of like how it feels, and the fact that we have to put these things on a back burner almost. So it's almost like we're calling out to our audience, to our other fellow actors and actresses and filmmakers and videographers, you know, to continue to grow your community, continue to put yourself into those positions so that you are heard, and then your other fellow community members are also being represented, almost in a sense, you know?
Yeah, and I don't think the way that they're going about it is absolutely wrong. I think they're thinking about it in a very logical, practical, survival mode way. Like, I'm gonna make it, you know, like I'm gonna make it. And that's what it takes for people like them. You know, I mean, not for people like them, for all of us, that's what it takes. You have to say, I'm gonna make it, and you go. And I think, like, for me, like, having, you know, and I don't know for you, Yashu, like, I'm not super old, but I'm also not super young. You know, I would say I'm like in the middle right now. And so I've gone through, like, you know, being like, okay, like, I just got to work really hard, and then this is where I'm going to go. And then I'm also at a point where I'm like, I've done some of that, and I'm also starting to acknowledge all the ways in which our culture is erased in this country. And I think, like, I'm thinking about it, and I'm trying to like, that's what we're trying to acknowledge here. And I'm also not trying to say don't be happy with your work and you shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't do it. It's like, absolutely do it. Be the best at it. Come back to me and be like, Srishti, guess what I did? You know, guess what I did what I needed to do to feel whole. And like, that's what I want for everyone. So none of my pushback is to question someone's real life lived experience. It's more to say, like, this is an open dialogue. And if you don't feel whole, don't let that be something that you don't acknowledge. Like, you know, and I think Sakib totally did. He's like, I don't feel whole, but you know what? I'm going to do me. I'm going to do what I have to do to pursue my passions in sound and audio design and photography and videography and all that. So am I making sense? And I think,
you know, even Santhosh said something very powerful. He said, like, your culture, it's going to come through in your work.
Absolutely.
And I think that that was like literally like all we really needed to hear as well, as to know that even though you may not be leading with your culture when you're entering into spaces that are very competitive and they're already minority oppressing and whatnot, but at the end of the day, when you deliver, it's that inner culture which is allowing you to be there. And I think that was a really powerful statement.
That's really powerful. Yeah. And I'm really happy people like him and Sakib are in these spaces because, right, when Santhosh makes a film, it's gonna mean something. It's gonna resonate. Yeah. It's gonna tell that.
I'm so excited.
Perspective. Yeah, he was saying like you need all these different perspectives, and that's true because like you guys are both Telugu speakers. I'm a Hindi speaker. That in and of itself, like we were saying, like these are differences where I actually might not even understand a story that he might share, but it'll give me some insight into your life, like, and vice versa. And it's just, there's just so much variety. Anyways, this has gone on for more than an hour, and I'm surprised we haven't been kicked off yet. But I felt like it was such an interesting conversation because, I want to be challenged on my thoughts too. And I think it's always interesting to hear somebody challenging my
through a curveball at you.
Yeah, like what do I think? And yeah, you're totally right. We are usually interviewing more not successful, but like more aged people in whatever field that we're choosing, and it's good to like go back to the basics and be like, all right, where are we starting?
We talk to a lot of established people, but it's also so powerful to hear someone who's in the now amongst us, working like just the way we are as well. And I think that's a perspective people can relate to, and that's exactly why I love the fact that Sakib and Santhosh joined us today.
Me too. Thank you.
With that being said, wrap us up. Tell everybody one last time about Giving Tuesday and why Giving Tuesday is so important.
Well, thank you, Sakib, and thank you, Santhosh, and I hope my questions weren't too jarring either. So this has been awesome. Like I'm truly like I learned a lot. And in order to keep things like this going, you have to donate to India Currents. And it's very easy. Just go to our Instagram page, click on that link in bio, like at the top, and that'll take you to some donation link. You can also go to our website, click on the donate button, which is indiacurrents.com. And if that's not easy enough, you can also try to find us on the India Currents magazine Facebook page, and you can donate on Facebook. Today's Giving Tuesday, so please, even just like $1, $5. I know you were gonna go buy that burger from Burger King or In-N-Out or Taco Bell, wherever you were gonna go. Just put that into the India Currents bucket today. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much, Yashu. Thank you for being here also and for bringing these amazing interviewees. I'll see you guys all next week. Or maybe not. No, we're not seeing you next week.
Maybe not. Christmas break. I don't know. We might be. What do y'all think? Let us know in the comments. Do you all think we need to do a couple of episodes in December? Or should we meet you back up in January? Let us know. Drop it in the comments.
All right. Bye.
Bye.